Hey, welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is our EV portion of our weekly show. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome, everybody.
Thank you for joining us. So we've got a number of news items today. First one we wanted to lead with is that Spain has become the first country to run the entire national grid 100% on renewable energy. And I have an image here that we can pop up, guys. There we go. Fix that a little bit. So this is kind of noteworthy in that, back to here, it was April 16th, 2025 that Spain achieved this unprecedented event in modern history. It's the first time ever that wind, solar, and hydroelectric power combined to meet 100% of the country's power demands. And it wasn't just a Sunday with low demand. This was a full working day as well that this was in place. The entire country was run entirely by clean, renewable energy resources. Spain has a number of wind power, solar panels, and hydroelectric dams working together seamlessly to keep the lights on without burning a single bit of fossil fuel to get that done.
I was amazed looking into this. First, to find out this was for a full 24-hour period. This isn't just a peak. This just isn't a couple hours, for the full 24 hours. And the fact that it's weekday, there was one point during the day, 11:16 a.m., when the grid was running at right at 100% of capacity. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just that it's like it says here, not a Sunday. It was the grid itself was at a full load, and renewable energy sources were meeting the entire load.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. And again, it's proof that a clean future is possible. They say that Spain's achievement proves that 100% renewable energy isn't just a dream, it's happening right now.
Yeah. Now, it took Spain about 25 years to build out this grid. They actually started their effort in the late 1990s. And began moving toward renewable energy sources, kind of at the very beginning of the solar age. And it took them about 25 years. It's taken them a little over 100 billion euros just to build out the renewable energy capabilities, and several billion more to do the interconnection and battery storage systems and things like that. Mm-hmm. I'm impressed.
Yeah, definitely. And once the transition is made, it will be a seamless continuation of clean energy in Spain. So another article here that we found interesting, Xiaomi is a Chinese car manufacturer, of course, and they have the sports car, which I guess is available in China as well for purchase.
Yes, they have 4 levels on the sports car that are available in China for purchase. I'll get into the pricing in a minute.
Okay, all right. So this is a stripped-down Xiaomi SU7 Ultra prototype, which has lapped Germany's Nordschleife track, the Nürburgring track, or Ring is probably an easier way for us to pronounce that,
yes.
Right? All right. It did the Ring in 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Now, anything below 7 minutes is pretty darn impressive with this track, and this is the second time that this car has run the track, and it beat its previous time by 24 seconds, and it also became the fastest lap ever recorded by any production-based EV at the track. So it made some history. It's a tri-power or a tri-motor prototype, produces 1,548 horsepower. It's 0 to 62 in 1.98 seconds, like it says, just under 2 seconds. It does use racing slicks and a full roll cage for this record-setting run. And it places it just a bit behind 3 other legendary cars in the Ring's history. To mark this milestone, Xiaomi is releasing a limited number of SU7 edition, Ring editions they call them, with carbon aero parts, Sparkle racing seats, and track spec hardware. If you want one, only 100 units are going to be made available. And what are they priced at?
$114,000.
Right.
for the track edition,
Mm-hmm.
which we just gave specs that the only cars that are in this class are $1 million cars.
Right.
The Show Me SU7 Ultra, which is their high-end, that's their highest tier car, can be purchased in China for an MSRP value of $73,000.
Wow.
Wow, no wonder Ferrari is putting off its EV plans that like we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
And no wonder Lamborghini is going into the crossover space and starting to make grocery getters.
Yeah.
How can they compete with something like this at this price?
You know, in 2008, I was pretty excited about a Dodge Viper that came out. And this is the ACR edition, American Club Racing, with a gigantic wing on the back. And this car was so successful that Dodge ended up taking it to 26 tracks around the world and beating all of the track records at the time. It also did the ring, or Nürburgring, in Germany, and its lap time was 7 minutes and 22 seconds. In fact, when I bought my Viper, this was mine, by the way, there was a decal on the back window that said ACR Viper 7.22. And you know, anybody that knew anything about this historic event understood that that was the track time that this car was actually able to pull off. Now, this, of course, is not an EV. This was the exact opposite of an electric vehicle. And the reason I bought it was my boys and I were into Mopars.
Okay.
And there were certain Mopars that had become collectible, the 60s versions, like the Cuda, for example, the Hemi Cuda convertible.
Yeah.
Sold for $3.5 million at one point because only 11 were made. And anything that had a Hemi engine in it, a larger engine in a Plymouth Roadrunner, a Dodge Charger, even some of the other lower cars in the Mopar lineup.
Like the Plymouth Javelin, right?
That was...
or was that not?
No, I'm thinking of a
Plymouth?
different one. It was the Dodge Dart.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah, okay.
Which later on became a little family sedan. A horrible change. But anyway, any of these cars, even the Coronet, the Dodge Coronets, if they had a Hemi in them, they became extraordinarily valuable later on in years.
Okay.
At the time they came out, it was expensive. It was another $800, which for a $3,000 car is pretty steep.
Sure.
20% more for that Hemi engine. But anyway, we were convinced that anything that is large displacement would eventually, in the automotive world, become collectible, especially if there were very few of them built. This car had the largest displacement engine in a production car at the time it came out, which was 512 cubic inches. And
oh my gosh.
yeah, the liters on it were 8.3 liters. So I mean, most cars are 2 liter, maybe 3.
Oh
that
yeah.
sort of thing.
Oh yeah. Even your I think Aaron drives an F350 turbo diesel with a 6.7 liter engine,
Which is big for a truck, right?
Yeah.
So it was a V10, by the way, and the pistons were the size of soup cans, fairly large in this car. But it did that 7 minutes and 22 seconds without all-wheel drive. It was a rear-wheel drive vehicle. And I forget the tires that I had on mine. They were 33 centimeters. They were fairly wide.
Okay.
But so things have come a long way. Now we have EVs that are breaking these records. The cost of this car at the time it came out was in the $90,000 to $100,000 range. The later versions, like the Voodoo, they called it, which was a over-the-top ACR Viper with some more, wind tunnel type additions to make it more aerodynamic, could be in the $150,000 range. So to have this Show Me car at $114,000 is just a remarkable transition. And then, of course, you just wonder whether this is going to be collectible. They've limited it to 100 units to be made in this aero configuration.
That right there is going to eventually make that particular car collectible.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So, let's see what else we have here. Jim Farley's back in the news, and let's see if I have the article here to share with you. No, I guess I don't, so I'll read it to you. Ford CEO, it says, favors Waymo's LiDAR approach over Tesla's vision only for self-driving. And this was in an interview speaking with Walter Isaacson. Walter Isaacson was the author that did Musk's biography
Okay.
just recently. And so his comments about Tesla and Waymo's self-driving system, some comparisons are that he said that Farley preferred LiDAR. Farley said, this is a quote, to us, Waymo, he said that though he stated that both Tesla and Waymo have these kinds of full self-driving tools, that the LiDAR is definitely something that is more preferred. I'm kind of in a word salad here, so let me see if I can get out of that.
Well, let me. I'll add to the salad a little bit.
All right.
There's a holy grail, a holy trinity almost in engineering circles for self-driving. It's the LiDAR plus just a standard radar plus cameras. The Waymo vehicles have 5 LiDAR units. That's the little spinny things on the top. It has at least 2 radar units on the 2 front corners of the car, and it has 40 cameras in its full system.
Yeah.
So it's an engineering marvel,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very expensive.
Right. What did we calculate the last time those 5 were burning in Los Angeles?
It was close to $100,000 for figured.
Per car
Per
for
car.
all of the full self-driving
Yeah,
tools.
the Jaguar that the car that the Waymo vehicle is built on, they figured that's about a $75,000 or $80,000 car, and then all the extra electronics was $1,000. And there's no question, the engineers are right. It's completely safe, or as safe as it's going to be. It's the pinnacle of what the engineers can reach as far as accuracy, as far as ability to judge distances and do things like that. What it isn't is scalable.
Mm-hmm.
Not only for cost perspective, it's incredibly difficult for a taxi service to spend $1 million for 10 taxis.
Yeah.
But also just the parts. It would be not feasible to get thousands of cars because it takes so long to build out the parts. And that's where vision and Tesla's idea of using just cameras works so well. They've got how many millions of Model 3s and Model Ys on the road with 8 cameras. That's all, and that's all that the robotaxi is going to have is 8 cameras with a supercomputer, artificial intelligence type system behind it that's interpreting what it sees as opposed to what's out there.
Mm-hmm. And Jim said that Ford still considers LiDAR as the pivotal part of autonomous driving. Now, we found out months ago, earlier this year actually, that Ford had been talking to Tesla about potentially licensing their full self-driving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of these major incumbent auto manufacturers have the capability to develop their own systems, and it's kind of silly anyway.
Yeah.
Another company has done all the legwork. Why not just license it?
Yeah.
Rather than reinvent the wheel and then come up with dozens of different standards like we have in the charging world, or had, until NACS finally was realized as the optimum way to go. So it looks like Ford is getting back to considering LiDAR, which of course is quite a bit more expensive than the camera-based systems.
Yeah, so as we look forward on this particular thing, which area is going to go faster? Which area is going to develop more? Is it vision that costs as little as a few $100s, is completely and easily scalable to millions of cars, but hasn't figured out the safety thing yet? Tesla's already had several incidents with the robotaxi. Or is it LiDAR coming down in price, where they've met or seem to be close to meeting the safety goals, but it's incredibly complex and expensive to put in place?
Mm-hmm.
I would not put bets against Tesla, in all honesty.
Well, according to Musk, he's maintained that Tesla's vision-only approach will ultimately prove safer and more cost-effective in the long term.
Yeah, I like the comment that I heard, read about from Musk. Is like, look, when you're driving down a road, you're using your eyes. So ultimately, roads are meant for humans with eyes. Why can't we just do cameras and do the thing?
Yeah. They do talk about that the vision or the cameras are more responsive to semantic items like road signs, for example.
Yep.
Whereas LiDAR is like a radar system. It may be able to see things, especially when the visual landscape changes. Sunsets, for example, light in the camera. Shadows, that was a big one during the launch, remember?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, what I could see is that Tesla eventually moves just a little bit toward the LiDAR space, as opposed to Waymo moving more to the camera space.
Yeah.
I did not even realize there's been actually quite a consolidation in this autonomous driving space. Uber in 2016 tried to license and have self-driving in San Francisco. As one example, there have been many companies that have started up and either been bought out or have just simply failed. Waymo is one of the last ones standing, and
Still surviving.
and
Yeah.
still surviving. And that's all of this press about Tesla. I can't imagine it's been anything but good news for Waymo, in all truth, because Waymo is now much more well known in the world than they were before Tesla announced all the self-driving stuff.
Yeah, and they're ubiquitous. There's so many cities now where these things are running around the city.
Yeah.
And they're still adding to that. I think we reported on that in the last podcast.
Yeah, and they have achieved level 4 autonomy. They're full self-driving in a geofenced area.
Mm-hmm. All right, have another graph to pop up here. Get this one. Oops, that one's on the wrong screen. There we go. So this one is talking about how solar has outgrown expectations. And they show two graphs here. The yellow, which is the predictions for solar acceptance and installation, and then the black one, which is reality. And that looks like a steep, increase, spike.
Yeah.
So on average, they say actual installations have been more than 3 times higher than their 5-year forecast.
I took a little bit of time to continue researching this, and worldwide, now here in 2025, there's enough solar to generate close to 2.2 terawatts worth of energy.
Oh.
Even the most optimistic projections, you've got this sitting up here at 700 gigawatts. Even the most optimistic projections from 2020 had 2025 at about 1.6 terabytes. And the more realistic projections had about 1.3 terabytes, and pessimistic ones were about 1 terabyte.
Terawatt or
I'm
terabyte?
Sorry, terawatt.
Watt. Okay.
I'm slipping into computer.
He's in the computer world here.
So terawatts. And to give you guys an idea, a terawatt will power roughly 810 million homes.
Million, okay.
Not thousand. A gigawatt will power roughly 810,000 homes. So we're talking about somewhere along the lines of 1.7 to 1.8 billion with a B houses that can be powered by solar power today. Far, far beyond any.
Yeah, what the graph here states is that 1 gigawatt equals power for a medium-sized city.
Yeah, and that's about right.
Yeah. So it looks like we're transitioning quite well.
It's going. I take it as encouragement that it's going enough that it's not really making the news anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Because a newsworthy item is by definition something unusual or novel.
Mm-hmm.
This is neither unusual or novel.
Mm-hmm. What else? All right. Electric vehicle fleet, they say, reaches almost 56 million worldwide in 2024. 56 million EVs. It grew 30% in 2024, they say, the global electric fleet, reaching 55.8 million units. With, guess who's leading the market?
Probably China on that one.
China. This is according to the German Center for Solar Energy and Hydrogen Research in Baden-Württemberg. The United States ranks second with 6.4 million EVs, followed by Germany with 2.6 million, and the UK and France each around 2.1 million, and Norway, which surpassed the 1 million EV threshold. Now, Norway, though, does lead most of these countries in per capita
Sure.
EV ownership. It's a smaller country. So for them to have 1 million EVs is pretty remarkable. So we like to report on the progress that is being made transitioning this planet to sustainable energy use and getting the fossil fuel burners off the road.
Well, and to give you a little context, there's about 1.2 billion passenger cars on the road today. So 56 million EVs is still kind of a drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
Even though that's, you look at that, because we've talked so often about EV sales, and that's the sale of new vehicles over a limited time period. We haven't talked much about, well, just how many cars are there?
Right.
And
1.2 billion.
1.2 billion cars on this planet. And if you include commercial vehicles, trucks, buses, things of that, it goes up to 1.6 billion. Some 400 million large capacity or heavy capacity vehicles that are out on the marketplace. A lot of room for growth for EVs still.
We have a long way to go.
I think my biggest surprise was to hear that the United States was second worldwide in EV adoption in terms of just raw numbers, because it seems like every time we talk, oh, the United States is behind Europe and behind China and behind everywhere in their rate of adoption. So, wow, still the raw numbers are pretty impressive.
With a population of 8 billion on the planet, yeah, it seems about right.
Yeah.
So, we've got some people chiming in. All right. Instagram, Aliyu Chidar says, hi, thanks for joining us. Facebook, Will Built says, good morning. Good morning to you as well. And then Instagram, Oakshade104, 56 million. That's a lot of digging for battery raw material.
Well, it is. I would venture to say it's not nearly as much digging as is going on to get oil out of the ground, but
yeah. Well, there's a whole nother component here, though, when we talk about batteries. There is a large recycling capability within batteries, EV batteries, which the recovery is well into the 90% range. So you no longer have to go out and mine as much. And so that helps. It definitely helps.
it helps a little bit, yeah. I don't like it as much as anybody else as far as the type of mining methods that are used to get battery materials, but it's not much different than strip mining for precious metals.
Yeah. Yep. So another headline here that it's a short one, but it's so true. Your kids will probably never have to learn to drive. It's going to be fascinating as this next generation no longer needs to have a steering wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... I don't even know what to say. For us, for me, driving was a rite of passage. Now,
hey, Mark, Pete.
Yeah.
I have a stepson who's 15 or 16 now, learning how to drive. I'm okay with kids not learning how to drive. You know, just gonna put that out there.
And it was much easier on your car when we had manual transmissions. So here's an interesting article. Got another picture here. Here's how to avoid Tesla supercharger idle fees. Now, what is this all about? Well, it turns out that Tesla began to address the issue of people using supercharger stalls as parking places.
Mm-hmm.
And Elon was pretty pointed at time here. He was talking about the San Mateo supercharger in California. And I quote, "The San Mateo supercharger is always full of idiots who leave their Tesla for hours even if it's already charged." Basically using it as a parking spot.
Sure.
And which, of course, shortchanges all the people that legitimately need to charge. Well, the Tesla supercharger is the envy of the entire automotive industry. It's extensive, it's reliable, and it's seamless. But Tesla knows that they can lose a lot of money if they leave their cars or if they leave the cars parked there. So what they did was they put in place a fee for what they call the idle fee. And I was surprised at the amount that they're charging for this, Mark. It depends on the capacity of the supercharger stations. At 50%, the cost per minute for an idle fee, once you're done charging, the software realizes that and it begins to charge, is 50 cents per minute.
Yeah, that's no joke.
That's no joke, no. Especially if you're going to leave it there for 8 hours, while you're at work.
Oh, heck yeah.
But it gets even worse. If that supercharger is at 100% capacity, the fee doubles. So it's $1 a minute. $60 an hour times 8.
Ooh.
Almost $500. And if you don't pay it, your supercharging goes away because that's a charge on your supercharger bill.
Yes.
Until it's relieved.
Yes.
So that's quite an expensive proposition. So there's a way that you can hack this, and one of them is they call it the sprinting, and there's apparently a video on TikTok where they show somebody that left their Tesla at the supercharger, and they watch him sprinting back to the car to unplug the car. Now, that, of course, brings a whole host of new issues into play here. Yes, by unplugging it, you have stopped the idle fees, but you're still occupying the space.
Right.
Now there's a whole different problem.
That's another issue.
Yeah. There is a legitimate hack, though, that you can do, and they talk about this. If you normally charge your car to supercharger, it will take it to 80%, and that's usually fairly quick, about 15, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, usually.
If you go, however, to to 100%, that could be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, which gives you some extra time.
Right.
Now, of course, they also say in this article that it's not recommended because it will degrade your battery. But you had some inputs there. There's always new information.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. We've seen the empirical research that's been published about battery charging in supercharger environments. And the long story short, if you remember, is that the engineering done to help make sure that these batteries are maintained and cool has been robust, is probably a good word for it. Over the top might even be acceptable. The bottom line is there's no degradation to the battery.
Mm-hmm.
You might see degradation if you're constantly charging your battery to 100%, although with newer lithium iron phosphate batteries, even that's not a case. They're actually recommended to charge to 100%. But your older lithium ion batteries, yeah, you get above 90%, but that has nothing to do with supercharging and has everything to do with just the chemistry of the battery itself.
Mm-hmm. So remember, charging between 80 to 100% slows it way down. And they say keep this trick in your back pocket when you need it, but in general, if you plug in a supercharger, plan to come and get it when it's ready, no matter what. It's going to be a lot cheaper for you.
I mean, the easiest thing to do is just plan on leaving your car there for no more than about a half hour.
Mm-hmm. And as one of the people in the article here said that he usually doesn't leave his car when it's supercharging. He stays with the car.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm. Instagram, Oakshade104 says, at least Europe had a defined standard to charge. Yep, we had a proliferation here for a while.
Yes.
Instagram, Oakshade104 also says, so if young kids no longer drive, does it mean cheaper insurance rates? LOL.
You know, I was talking to my insurance agent for the company this last week.
Mm-hmm.
And he said insurance agencies are kind of like gas stations. If the cost goes up, they will raise the rates immediately.
Right,
If the cost goes down, they try to not drop the rates
right, right.
because that's when they take their profit. The oil companies are the same way.
Oh, yeah, totally. It kind of reminds me of Home Depot. If you go into the copper pipe section, and, copper, spot copper varies.
Of
in,
course.
Cost. The instant spot copper begins to move. All of that copper that's sitting in their inventory moves up. Well, they bought it at the old rate, right?
Yes.
You would think that in fairness they might extend that, but they don't.
No.
And then, like you said, when it comes back down, those prices remain up there a long time until competition forces them to do something.
Well, and the whole excuse that they'll give is, well, spot copper rates were really high 3 months ago when we were manufacturing this.
Right. All right. Here's another good article. Got an image here. I love the title on this one. Another dumb electrical code change could ban do-it-yourself EV charger installs. Well, the long and short of it is the cities and all the municipalities would love for homeowners to always pull a permit whenever they're doing anything to their home because that's how they feed their revenue-hungry machine.
Right.
And there are inspectors that are driving around in pickup trucks and that are going from site to site, and there's salaries involved and all of that, right? Well, it gets really silly at times. Technically, you can't even change an outlet in your house without going down to City Hall, pulling a permit, giving them plans and drawings for what you're going to do, and then hiring a licensed electrician, even though you may be eminently qualified to do that work yourself and do a better job than the electrician.
Oh, yeah.
In my case, for example. Then you have to have the inspector come out, and they're always busy, so it's at least 2 weeks. And then if they come out, they may green tag your project or red tag it, which
Right.
means that you failed. You can't use it until I come back in another 2 weeks. All right. Well, they're getting into the outlets for EV chargers. And your typical high-rate EV charger in a home is going to be 240 volts. But it's not the only device in your home that operates on 240. You've got a hot water heater, you've got a kitchen range, and you may have other devices that are power hungry that are at 240 volts, split phase or two phase. So what they have passed now, apparently, as of Friday last week, was redefining the 2026 NEC code, which stipulates that you have to have an expert install anything in your home like this, which now means that the local municipalities are more than likely going to start code enforcement to make sure that you had a licensed electrician do the work in your home, which requires the permitting process. Well, so there is a workaround here, and that happens to be there is no qualified person requirement for residential installation of devices such as water heaters or stoves.
Right.
Or even a welder, if you want to include that. So what a do-it-yourselfer could do is install that NEMA 14-50. What that means is 14 is 208 or 240 volts, 50 is 50 amp. Install that outlet, claiming that you're going to use it for a welder, and then when everybody's out of your hair, you plug in your EV charger after that.
Yeah, and the experts in EV charging don't really like that because they say that NEMA 1450 outlet is a weak point in that chain. In many cases, the NEMA 1450 outlet can get hot or overheat, especially if the wires are not torqued down enough, and even electricians don't always torque them down properly.
Right.
And you end up with a fire risk.
Yep. And of course, with an EV charger, you could get closer to that 50 amp requirement because a clothes dryer is not going to draw anywhere near 50 amps.
Right.
And your kitchen stove most likely will be nowhere near that either. So,
yeah, and an EV, you can dial that EV up to tell it, hey, give me everything that this circuit can take.
All right, TikTok Panopticon says it's all about money. That's right, it's all about dollars.
Yes, it is.
You know, once the bureaucrats put the infrastructure in place, it never goes away. It grows.
Yeah.
It just continues. and more justifications for it. All right. Aaron, do you guys have anything back there that you want to contribute in this podcast today?
Yeah, I got a little quick something.
Okay.
So what I got going on, in fact, I actually have a folder, if you want to pull up.
I will do it.
It's actually about the Le Mans that went on a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know the history, but Ferrari decided to drop out like around 1973 to focus on other races. And so they decided to come back 3 years ago for the first time. And since then, they have won 3 in a row. So they are 3 for 3 since they've come back to Le Mans.
I've got an image up there, Jesse.
Yeah, so this is just a little video I clipped together. You could see them starting the race right here. But if you're not familiar with this, this is like a 24-hour race, and they have like 3 drivers that alternate throughout the 24-hour period. But you can see how close they get. And I mean, these guys, what's cool about these cars is that they're hybrids.
Oh, okay.
And so the after they got done shifting from Formula One, they took they didn't want to take their Formula car back to Le Mans, and they didn't want to recreate another one because it was going to be really cost effective. So they actually took one of their everyday cars that they make that anybody can buy, did some modifications and tweaks to the engine. Like they laid down the engine a little bit more into a 120 degree for the pistons to give it a little bit more balanced. And they created this 499p hypercar, and it is powered by a 3.0 liter turbo V6 engine. And it also has, let's see if I can read my notes here, 680 horsepower from this engine. And then they also have a hybrid electric motor by VASA. I think that's how you pronounce it, VASA. And it's a British electric motor, and the motor's capable of 272 horsepowers. So what's really cool about this is when it accelerates, it's all gas, okay? But once it hits 118 miles per hour, the electric motor will actually kick in. So it only kicks in at certain times of the race. And what's neat about it is that when he slows down, it regens. And so it stays pretty much max capacity on the battery all the time. So every time, like you see the brake lights here, every time it slows down, it's regenning. Every time, yeah. And then the engine kicks in. So when it gets into straightaway, it kicks into basically like an all-wheel drive, you know? They call it a 4-wheel drive, but it's really, there's some speculation on that. To me, I think it's more of an all-wheel drive. But then the electric motor kicks in. That's when you get that extra oomph. And it's really cool because you can hear the sound. I mean, as soon as he lets off and that regen kicks in, I mean, it's a high wind. It sounds pretty cool. But yeah, they've won 3 in a row right now. Looks like they're in Le Mans to stay with it. Formula One, they're still doing some stuff on it, but I think they're going to start backing away from Formula One. And yeah, I just thought this was really cool. It felt like Ferrari's kind of back into Le Mans. I just recently watched that movie Ford versus Ferrari because I'm a Ford guy. And so I was actually shocked to see that they had left for about 50 years and stopped racing in that. So then to come back and win 3 out of their first 3 since they've been back is, I think, pretty impressive.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah, winning 3 in a row under any circumstance has got to be just amazing.
Now, what is this picture here, Aaron?
So that is the car that they drove. Before they would have like a little bit of a different design to it. They kept an older style design, and they had their prototypical red and then the Enzo yellow. And so next year they're going to change things up a little bit because Le Mans is always changing their rules. And so it's going to look a little bit different. But this is the car right here. And if you go to pick 2, this is the motor that they were using. Okay. So so this is the motor that you can actually pretty much get in most of their cars. They just laid it down a little bit more. For more balance in the racing. So that's what they needed for the sharp turns to stay on the ground instead of lifting.
Gotcha.
Yep. So there's more of the motor right there. And this thing is up to 1,000 horsepower.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah, this is a
thing-
picture of a V8 right here.
Yeah. Yep. And then that's how, and then this one right here is you can see the motors all in the back,
see.
the rear wheel drive. And then once you hit 118 miles an hour is when the electric kicks in and then it turns into like an all wheel drive right there.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then that, I just thought that was a cool picture of the steering wheel and everything inside.
Yeah. It's like a cockpit.
So yeah, so Ferrari's back in Le Mans. It's kind of cool.
Very much so, yes. Well, Cass, do you have anything for us?
I do, but we're already at 41, so
Okay.
we'll save that one for later.
We'll save it till next week. TikTok Panopticon says C10 certified, question mark, question mark.
And that's from a couple articles ago, so I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I think it was on the electrical,
Oh, okay.
if it
We're-
has to be
yeah, we're
C10
not sure.
certified. The requirement for qualified personnel is not well defined. That's one of the main complaints that the organizations that oppose us have had, is that what is a qualified person? They make the assumption that it's a certified electrician, but that's not well defined.
And each state has different licensing requirements, and it gets. But it's what bureaucrats do best: obfuscate and confuse.
So close out with a Facebook from Will Welbelt. The amount of information I'm receiving is just great. Thank you, guys.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We have these podcasts every Tuesday morning. We welcome any comments, and these are posted out on our YouTube channel afterwards. So if you want to review anything, there are date and timelines there. We will see you next week. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Have a wonderful week and take care.